Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the Weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your host, Chris, and this is a show where we talk about the latest comic book news and we review the latest comics that have come out. Let's see, we've got Knightfight, part of the DCKO event. We've got a new chapter in G.I. Joe that's pretty exciting. We've got the conclusion of Post Malone's Big Rig. Plenty of other great books. Oh, here's a special one that came out this week. Savage Sword of Conan, issue 11 of the magazine, has a story that Liam Sharp has been working on, I think, for at least 10 years he's wanted to do, plus a backup story with Ron Mars and Danny Earls. Pretty excited for all of that. Plus, I had time to do a little sketch of Deck from Predators, so I'll do some inking and just chat with everybody at the end of the show. Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff today. I'm pretty excited about all that. Let's see. There's a super chat already. Steve says, no work for me tomorrow. Time for some Baja Blast. Well, I don't have Baja Blast, but I do have Diet Mountain Dew. And that caffeine boost will give you all a better than average show. Sorry to start a couple minutes late on the live stream. If you're obviously just watching this on demand once it's up, you didn't notice, but I am starting a few minutes late. My apologies. Yeah, I just hadn't quite finished reading everything, to be honest. And I was like, I want to finish reading. And so, sorry. Yeah, so honestly, I'm super disappointed. I have several comics that I wanted to get, but my shop had some damages this week. So I didn't get everything I wanted to get, and it's on back order. That includes the Ice Cream Man cards, Ultimate X-Men 21 by Peach, and Batman #3 by Fraction and Zdarsky. No, not Zdarsky. By Fraction and Jorge Jimenez. But the Ice Cream Man cards I really wanted to get, and I couldn't find them anywhere. Yes, I'm Carr. You guys may remember I was given this beautiful bumper sticker by West Coast Avengers. Just, I'm Carr. Please don't. I appreciate the super chat, but I do not need a sugary pie. That would just finish me off. So no. No, Jim Woodring said it wasn't ringing a bell. Chrissy had babysat Jim Woodring's children, and I saw him at the not Small Press Expo, Short Run Comics Festival. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm not quite remembering it, but he did sign a calendar to her. So very, very nice. Let's see. You know what? Before I get too far, I'm pretty excited. Last week, Dynamite was kind enough to sponsor the episode, and we had an ad for their upcoming Gargoyles and Darkwing Duck crossover. And that ad featured the words of writer Greg Weisman, like basically the creator, the guy behind Gargoyles. But there's another half of this equation, isn't there? Tad Stones, the guy who ran Darkwing Duck. So once again, we are sponsored this week by the generous Dynamite Comics, and therefore I would like to share this with you. Please enjoy.
My name is Tad Stones, and I, back in 1990 or so, and a talented team of writers, artists, production people, and studios from around the world created Darkwing Duck. Right at the beginning, we were assigned a new executive on staff who conveniently for us had been an associate editor at DC Comics and had actually done some comic writing while he was there. That, of course, was Greg Weisman, who knew all the Silver Age references, all the comic book tropes that we were having fun with Darkwing Duck. So when Dynamite approached me to say, would I be interested in doing a Darkwing Duck Gargoyles crossover, I said, hey, if you can get Disney to agree to it, I'm sure Greg would be for it, because he was there almost from day one. Working with him on this project was great. I felt strongly that the impetus of the crossover had to come from the Gargoyles world, and Greg was way ahead of me because he had the villainous Demona reaching out to our own mostly good sometimes bad, sorceress Morgana Macabre. Also an on and off love interest for Darkwing Duck. That was a great beginning. MacGuffin's in place. We went into this fantastic adventure, and I think Greg had actually a ton of fun writing for Darkwing, almost more than the Gargoyles cast, who he's written from day one, obviously. The art in this project is fantastic by Ciro Cangialosi, and the letters were by Fabio Amelia. The art's fantastic. I did some covers. We have covers by some fantastic artists, and it's finally coming out from Dynamite Comics, so please pick it up.
Thank you very much to Tad Stones for that little promo piece. Thank you to Dynamite for sponsoring the episode. And yeah, pretty cool to get the people involved with the shows working on the comics. I like that. And that's coming from somebody where both of those shows are a little bit of a blind spot for me personally. I think it was just coming out at the point where I was in college and starting my professional work career. So lots of mid-90s stuff is sort of a gray area as to how much I know it, you know? Comics, yes, I kept up with my comics, but TV, some movies, I guess I was up to date with music, but like TV and movies, a little bit of a blind spot for a little while. Anyway, very, very cool. Thank you very much to them. And let's see, I think I also got another super chat here. Only joking. Reddit cracked the recipe for that Baja Blast pie. I'm not surprised. Thank you for the super chat, Steve. Very kind of you. Folks, I have some very diverse news to talk about. Some of it's comics, some of it's comics adaptations. We've got mainstream, indie, digital, manga. We've got a lot of stuff. So without any further ado, let's get into the news of the week.
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi guys, this is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
All right, here we go. I nailed that thumbnail right. Na 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 na. Hey hey hey. Goodbye. Might not be quite that extreme, and I really wouldn't take any pleasure in this, but we will get to some Funko Pop news, which I admit, a little tangential to comics, but when was the last time you went into a comic book store or a comic book convention and there wasn't Funko Pop stuff everywhere, right? I think that that's pretty fair. Well, I might have adjusted that in Photoshop just a tad. Let's see. Thank you. Quick question. I don't know if you're friends with Robert, but what are your feelings on issue 25? Well, first of all, I do consider myself friends with Robert, but I think that I've still maintained enough of a distance to give my honest thoughts about the comics. And I liked it. I talked about it a couple weeks ago when it came out new. Exciting to see some of the new characters that he's weaving into the mythology. I really thought that it was pretty fun. So anyway, let me get into my first piece here. We're going to start with some Marvel bits. I think that that's a nice way to ramp it up. So they've announced an Iron Fist Reborn type of title here. And in February, Marvel is going to relaunch their old magazine title, which was called Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. Came out in the 70s. It was, kung fu, karate, martial arts exploitation movies were the thing. And in the 70s, Marvel was hopping on trends. They created Ghost Rider to get in on the bike craze, but they also created stuff like Team America. US 1 was to capitalize on the CB radio phase. They were jumping on fads, but for martial arts has had some staying power. And I liked Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. That was like a black and white magazines, and because it was a magazine, there was no comics code, so they could kind of just do whatever they wanted. It was a fun title. Anyway, they're reusing that title, and they're going to do a 5-issue comic starring Iron Fist. Lin Lee is the newer Iron Fist that they created, and he's going to lead a team. The creative team, separate from the superhero team in the book, creative team is Yifan Jiang and Paco Medina. I like Paco Medina's art, so I'll consider picking that up. This is the fun hook, if you will, to this. Lin Lee is going to gather a team of martial artists. We've got Elektra, White Tiger, White Fox, Pei, Karnak. All right, that's out there. I like that. And somebody called Fu. And I have no idea, guys. I'm out of the loop. Who is Fu? Because I read that, and Fu sounds to me like meme culture. That's like Poot Lovato. That does not sound like something I understand. But whatever. There's also Fu. And they're going to combat demonic forces that have invaded, Kunlun and the heavenly cities. That sounds like a fun little hook to it. A whole team. Have 2 Iron Fists. There are 2 Hawkeyes, Wolverines. Yep, Spider-Man. At this point, there are just multiple Captain Americas. Yeah, there's multiples. It's fine. It's not a big deal. This cover was being shared with it, and they say Deadly Hands of Kunlun, not Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, but I assume it's the same thing and that they're just having fun here. I don't know. Maybe one thing was mistyped. I saw that the title was called Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, which was their original title. Anyway, this one is showing Danny Rand. This is Danny Rand, the original comics, not chronologically in the mythology, but chronologically into who we were first introduced to. He's the original Iron Fist, and he is back. Somewhat related, we're going to talk one more thing about Iron Fist. I like Iron Fist. I don't know when I'm doing it, but I did stop by the P.O. box today. I have a massive stack of comics to open, so sometime soon. Yeah, Finn Jones. He played Iron Fist on TV. He posted a photo, this photo, of just a Taekwondo dojo. And, some people are like, oh, maybe he just liked the photo or something as he was walking by. And other people are like, well, maybe that's a hint that he's going to return as one of the defenders in season 2 of Daredevil. I wouldn't be surprised. We know that Jessica Jones is coming back. They didn't say that Luke Cage would be back, but Mike Coulter did go on the Daredevil panel at New York Comic-Con. It would be very weird if they do bring those two back and don't bring back Danny Rand, but I don't know. You see, I'm a little unique. I don't think he was that bad in that role. I don't think his martial arts were always good, but I heard that they really, in season 1, rushed all the fight scene stuff. Like, they did not give that much time to get choreographed, and that was a big problem for a show that you should be able to do, like, good martial arts fights on a TV budget. I thought season 2 was actually a pretty good improvement on the show. But I know that that's not a popular opinion. I do know that. I didn't mind him. I didn't think season 1 was disastrous, like the same way I thought, say, what was that? Secret Invasion. Now, that was garbage, pure garbage. But I didn't mind Iron Fist. But then again, I will admit, I have a soft spot for Iron Fist. I just like that character. That was like an early comic that I liked, and it's probably, insensitive of me to think this, but it was a blonde white guy that became this badass martial artist, and I really projected onto that character. I did. So, I just grew up with it being a character that I really liked, and to see him represented in live action was exciting enough that I forgave a lot. So I do admit that, I don't have the popular opinion there, but I liked it. Yeah, Secret Invasion was stunningly bad. Stunningly bad. Jessica Jones season 1 is some fantastic Marvel stuff. Fantastic season 1. Season 2 and 3, whatever. They're okay. They're okay. But season 1 was fantastic. All right, moving on. That was a lot of Iron Fist stuff. This just happened today, so I don't have a lot to say about it, but Bendis is returning to Marvel. Marvel announced it today that he's going to write a story for them beginning with issue 800, Legacy 800 of Avengers. So they also said he'd be doing other stuff. So far, this is the only thing that they've announced, but he is coming back. For the story, it says taking place on the anniversary of the founding of the Avengers, the all-new story brings together the Big Three, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, for a high-stakes mission to take down Hydra's latest weapon of mass destruction. They're soon joined by many more teammates, past and present, for a thrilling showdown that exemplifies the team's mission and impact. And we've got a variant cover by Mark Bagley, who, of course, worked with Bendis on Ultimate Spider-Man, and I'm trying to think, do they hold the record for the most issues by one team at Marvel? I think that they do. I'm trying to remember. I should have looked it up, but honestly, this news broke just before I was going to go live. So, kind of cool. They do hold that record. It's impressive in its own way. They were a good team on Ultimate Spider-Man. You're pretty sure, okay. No, I'm going to legally hold you to that, Dave. And if I was wrong for saying it, now I can conveniently shift the blame. Just shift the blame right onto another channel. Moving forward, there's not much more that I can say about this yet. Oh, hold on. Loved Bendis as a kid. Rereading his stuff is meh. Hated most DC comics. I'd say that he's hit and miss for me sometimes too. But I do tend to like his crime stuff. Like if he does street level crime with Powers or with Daredevil, I'm there. Jessica Jones. What was that book? Alias. Oh, that was a really good book. That was an underrated run by him. Alias. Really, really good. Yeah. This is a quick one. Boy, I feel like I'm shilling for Marvel too much with some of this because I'm just sort of taking their press releases here, but what can I say? Armageddon is going to begin. That's the next event with Wolverine. So specifically, Marvel announced this week that they're going to do a 4-issue series called Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon. And it is written by Chip Zdarsky, who's overseeing whatever this event Armageddon is. Story, they just say that Wolverine is recruited to investigate a super soldier program, which uses Weapon X technology. I would say, this is me, if I'm reading between the lines, I would imagine that this super soldier program somehow got a hold of one of those origin boxes from the Ultimate Universe, and that's going to be the inciting incident for wherever this story goes. That's just a guess. I don't know that for a fact. Oh, you've never read Powers? I do recommend it. I think Powers is really interesting. Yeah, has cool mysteries that all involve superpowers, but I think it plays very fair with the mysteries. Yeah. Yeah, I was also fashionably late for this show, so you're not really that late. Nice to see you, Stepan. Let's see. This is interesting. I'm not sure if I'm going to back it yet or not, but this is a Kickstarter for a behind-the-scenes story, which is kind of the sort of thing I do on YouTube, behind-the-scenes stories of the creation of a book or the techniques that somebody uses. So anyway, Ellie Pyle, she's written this book. It's about the making of the 2015 Marvel event Secret Wars, and that makes me feel so old to think that that's already a decade old, because that just feels like a very recent thing to me. Yeah. Which Secret Wars? The new one. The new one. Anyway, it includes images from behind the scenes and stories from the writers and from the story summits, all the stuff behind the scenes, the pitches, the development, stuff like that by the actual people that worked on it. It's 11.7 inches by 16.5 inches, kind of a weird size, I guess. 300 pages, though. It's really big. It's a hardcover. It's got interviews with Jonathan Hickman and Esad Ribic, who, of course, did Secret Wars itself. Jason Aaron, who did, the tie-in books Thor's and Weird World. Similarly, Kieran Gillen, Jerry Duggan, and editor Tom Brevoort. It's $60 to get just the book, like the physical book. There are cheaper things for like PDFs and stuff, and there's more expensive things for extras. It already has hit its goal, so it's going to get made. There's 15 days left on it. I'm curious about it, to be honest. I really liked Secret Wars. I thought it was a good story. I thought it was a really good story. And I thought the lead up to it in Avengers and New Avengers, which Hickman was writing for 2 years consecutively, side by side, building up to this, great. I loved that. Interesting. You weren't super into it, huh? It worked for me. I thought it was really cool. I thought that it really gave Reed Richards his due. Was that book so top-notch it deserves that kind of treatment? Maybe it's more that it is recent enough that you can still talk to everybody involved on it. You know what I mean? As compared to if we wanted to talk about the original Secret Wars of 86 or anything like that, not everybody's around. Yeah, I liked it. These are interesting comments. Wish it was about the original Secret Wars. Esad on art is always just going to be at least great on that side of things. Yeah, I think it was some of his better work. Some of his best work. I think he really worked hard on it. That's an interesting idea. I feel like Hickman probably could do a good job on something like Legion of Superheroes. Yeah. Well, moving on. Just a Kickstarter I thought I'd talk about a little bit. Okay, I thought that there was something else that I had between there. Youngblood. Oh my God. Say whatever you will about Rob Liefeld. Oh, wait. Say whatever you will about Rob Liefeld. The guy is popular, and he has maintained an excitement for his stuff. I feel like he really should probably just be the head of marketing for a comics company. You know what I mean? He always knows how to get people talking about whatever he does. It's amazing. So anyway, it's already sold out ahead of its relaunch. Specifically, I'm saying that it's sold out at the distributor level. So all the copies that they printed, comic shops have ordered them. And so Image Comics is going to rush out a second print to meet demand. This is the cover that they're making for the second print of Youngblood #1. Obviously based on Liefeld's famous New Mutants #98 cover with the debuts of Deadpool and Domino. Although this adds the new Youngblood characters of Vandal, Xerxes, and Plasmax. And as to who's who, I have no idea. I would guess the lady is maybe Plasmax, because maybe she's got plasma powers. Vandal and Xerxes, I don't know. I mean, this guy looks like he's Deadpool. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't think it's a reboot so much as a continuation. I think it's a continuation. It's just Xerxes is how it's pronounced. Is it? Sorry, I didn't know that. I know it's a historical name from like the Persian Empire, but I never knew how to pronounce it. Now, some of probably what helped it sell out is the fact that it's got a bunch of variant covers by some of the most popular people out there. You know, I know Daniel Warren Johnson did one. He made Shaft look very cool. Plus, Image has been promoting that this is coming by putting Youngblood variant covers on all their other titles. You know, so they definitely have been promoting it. You bought the Youngblood Joe Casey trades. See, and I'm going to be very curious to see what's going to happen with Blood Squad 7 by Joe Casey, because that was definitely saying like, okay, you know, we don't right now have Youngblood tied into the shared Image universe. So let's make a similar team and play with those tropes and those ideas and how they would play in the modern day. And now all of a sudden we've got Youngblood back as well. It's weird. Although I'm pretty sure that I don't think, to be clear, that Liefeld owns Youngblood again. I believe he's just licensing it, and you know, Image is kind enough to publish it. But I'm pretty sure he is just licensing it from I forget the guy that owns it, but one of his former business partners. They divided up the rights to like a bunch of his stuff, and I don't think Liefeld owns Youngblood anymore. He's just working on it now. He owns a bunch of his own characters, but I know he doesn't own Youngblood. I don't think he owns Supreme or Brigade. I'm trying to remember what he does own. I'm just guessing. It's been a while since I studied this, but you can look it up. That's a really interesting idea, Mike. Cully Hamner, huh? I'd read just about anything by Cully, and yeah, Shaft book could be cool. Interesting. First of all, not necessarily. If you license something and then bring it to Image, you can also do it that way. But it originally Youngblood was creator owned, and then Liefeld took it to his follow-up company, I want to say Awesome Comics, and that didn't do well. And to pay off other people that had invested in the company, they divvied up the rights to a bunch of stuff that Liefeld had created. And that included like, you know, like, so 2/3 of his comics that he made at Image, he doesn't have the rights to. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Extreme, that it was Awesome that went under, because I know he's had a couple companies. I'm pretty sure. Yes, I did see that one. Jim Rugg did a really cool homage to the Absolute Batman cover. It's kind of interesting how iconic the Nick Dragotta Absolute Batman #1 cover has become within basically a year. Thank you, Steve. Reprint of Supreme by Alan Moore. See, and I think that hasn't necessarily happened just because, again, I don't think Rob has the rights to Supreme anymore, so I don't know who does. Let's see. Honestly, I only know Youngblood because of Spawn. It was kind of cool how Youngblood originally was tied in so close to Spawn because of the character. Oh, shoot. Help me out, guys. Who was the big black mercenary with the skull on his face? I don't remember all of a sudden. I'm just bad at names. But eventually Spawn did retcon that to be Chapel was his name, right? Yep. And of course there everybody just said Chapel. Yep. That's true. Rick Veitch might own some of the rights to like what he wrote, and I think Alan Moore owns the rights to what he wrote. So even the character though, it could potentially come back. but it would be news stories. Yeah, he was in the HBO show, but eventually Todd McFarlane did have it retconned that it was Jessica Priest, who is now She-Spawn, just because it's been so many years. It's been like 30 years, but Jessica Priest was eventually retconned to have killed Al Simmons. But originally it was Chapel. An oversized Treasury edition of this book is also going to be coming out next month, December 17th. Jonathan Hickman and Mike Del Mundo are making a new comic, and you can read the first chapter for free. So we're talking about Shift. It's a 64, or it will be a 64-page comic by, like I said, Jonathan Hickman and Mike Del Mundo. It's available on their website, 3w3m.com, which of course stands for their shared universe, 3 worlds, 3 moons. The site describes it pretty narrowly. It just says Shift tells the story of a lost age of magic and a brotherhood forged within it. I don't know exactly what that means. The big selling point here are the names involved. But here's what's free. 13 pages. Not bad. First 13-page chapter is available to read for free if you go to that website. After that, of course, subsequent chapters are paid, and they come out every Tuesday until all 64 pages come out. Nope, still have not found that yet. But I also, if I'm being honest, haven't really tried to reorganize the house to find it yet. I just haven't had time. Subscriptions, if you do want to get this, $8 a month, $80 if you sign up for a full year, or $250 a year gets you like premium access, and I think like lifetime membership. Double check on that. But yeah, shared universe also got stuff by Mike Huddleston and a few other creators, and it's just their own shared universe where they release it through basically their website and Substack newsletters. Nope, haven't found that either. I have some good comics. I just don't know where they are. There's a few places they could be. I wish I had time to look for this stuff. I'll just say. So people are asking me about some comics that I've said I would review or discuss, and I'd love to do that. You know, I wanted to especially review the Jaws manga within the context of how different countries have done shark horror comics. There's an American issue of Creepy by Richard Corbin that has a really good shark story. And there's the comic Hookjaw, which is a British version of a great white killer shark. And then there's the Jaws manga adaptation. And I spent 10 years searching for the thing. I finally found it on one of my visits to Japan, and I don't have it. And it's like, well, why can't you just, look around your house and find it? Which is a very fair question. I'm always working. I have no free time. My house is not very organized, or at least my stuff within it, my comics. It drives Dave nuts, West Coast Dave Enders, because I just sort of have comics stacked here. I don't put them in bags and boards and put them in boxes. I just don't have time. I don't have time. It's frustrating. Some of that is because YouTube, I just have to crank away at it. Like the revenue from it has just diminished every year, even as subscriptions go up. Views and the actual pay you get per video has consistently dropped over the last 4 years for everybody, not just me. So, maybe at some point I can engage people to go to my Patreon. And if that was successful enough, maybe I'd have more free time, but I'm just daydreaming, really. I'm daydreaming. A horror comic about Katy Perry shark from 10 years ago. Well, that wouldn't be too scary. That sounds like an interesting way to organize them. File cabinet. I have heard of people doing that before. Hey, what could go wrong? Comics, oil, matches. I mean, you got to keep it all somewhere. What's the worst that could happen? So anyway, it's not to say that I don't look at it or that I don't clean and organize. It's more just to say that I have very little time for it. I just am either actively editing, reading or writing a script, or what do you call it? My day job, selling cars. And then of course, you have to carve out some time just to do the bread and butter chores, clean dishes or cook or do laundry, these kind of things, just to keep your head above water. So like the extra stuff of like sorting through my piles of comics, I'd like to prioritize it. I need to. I'm making excuses. I'll find a way to find it, folks, because I can make a really special episode out of that, in my opinion. We'll get there. All right. Going back to news. Scott Snyder gave a bunch of updates on both his Wytches TV show and the Absolute Batman comic. Chrissy's doing very well. She's getting great grades with her schoolwork. Our concern right now is we're not sure if she'll get her grant to pay for another semester, and we couldn't afford to just put her through school. She got a grant from the state. I know, I feel the appreciation. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Steve. Thanks for all the little super chats. They add up a lot. Hold on, I just opened up an extra window for myself. There we go. Okay. So, Wytches, which is by, of course, Scott Snyder and his art partner Jock, is being turned into an Amazon Prime animated horror show. I say it's full, like R-rated. And Snyder gave an update in a video interview with CBR this week. Here's part of his quote. "We're up to the stage now where we're doing the animatics of the whole first season. We get our pilot back really soon. I can't wait to see it, but we're extremely proud of the series, and it's going great. We're almost done with production. We go into post-production in the spring." He also said that the second season is already written. So that is, I think animation is a smart way to go with some of these comics projects now. I mean, it can look visually different from everything else. It can have its own tone, and it's more affordable in a lot of ways than doing these big budget live action movies for everything. So I think that animation, especially when you see how popular things like Chainsaw Man and K-pop Demon Hunters and Demon Slayer, like how popular some of these animated things are, huge profits. Let's see. Scott Snyder also shared that Absolute Batman, this was new to me anyway, is planned out 35 to 40 issues, but he thinks that could easily expand to be a 50 or 60 issue run. Wow. He's in this for the long haul. And he said that he'd be doing that with Nick Dragata. So yeah. There will be a crossover with Wonder Woman. That happens in January. Scarecrow will be the next enemy that Batman faces, and it's more about him, Bruce, shutting out everybody in his life to try to keep them safe after what's been happening in the Bane storyline. And finally, Scott Snyder promised that Penguin, Two-Face, and Riddler will be in the books, but they might not simply be a new take on a villain, because these people are all started as his friends, and he's trying to keep some of that complexity, I think. So they both sound interesting. I'm pretty excited to see what they do with Wytches. That was a genuinely creepy story. Genuinely disturbing way to go. Not traditional Wytches at all. spoiling the fact that Joker doesn't eat Batman by announcing the next enemy. Maybe it's a new Batman for all we know, right? Maybe Dick Grayson becomes the new absolute Batman. So who knows? Superman apparently made a healthy profit. There's been a lot of debate as to whether it was a success or not. But Forbes this week had an article about Warner Brothers being up for sale. And within it, they revealed that Superman, quote, will have generated significantly more than $100 million in profits and approaching $150 million globally when all is said and done this year. So I don't know. They didn't go into how that breaks down. There has been speculation that Warner Brothers had a deal to get more of the initial box office than like a 50-50 split with movie theaters. And they might also be counting ancillary deals like some licensing rights to the Superman movie within that profit. I'm not quite clear, to be honest. They're not, studios are never that transparent. But it was an article on Forbes, and generally they're going to check their work. So that was interesting. They did rush it to streaming faster than I thought was necessary. I think that they could have definitely made a lot more money by keeping it in theaters. I think it was doing pretty well for what movies do these days in theaters. There's a little more related to this. Just so you know, like Warner Brothers Discovery, they're up for sale because they also posted a $148 million loss overall for just this third quarter. And that's mostly due to how their TV division lost a lot of money because they had significant film successes this year. They had huge hits with Sinners, Superman, like I just mentioned, Weapons, the fourth Conjuring movie, F1. Those were all Warner Brothers movies. They all did very well. And at least three of them, the horror movies, pretty modestly budgeted. So pretty good, healthy profits on all of that stuff. It's like their movie division doing good. TV, terrible. I don't know how they can't make it work, but apparently they can't. I don't know. If I knew, I'd probably be working there and I'd be the president. Yeah, it's like Mike says, those are rookie numbers. They got to pump those up to open AI level losses. And people keep trying to not let us infringe on their intellectual property rights. If they keep enforcing their rights, don't they understand that OpenAI is going to lose money? Don't they understand? Thank you. Thank you, Mike. You are the best. DC shared iShowSpeed's cosplay. By the way, before I tell you who it is and what the story is, I want you to double check this. For the top here, he just spray painted himself black, jet black. He's just wearing spandex, boots, a mask, but this is his body. That's such a weird way to have done it. Anyway, iShowSpeed is a streamer who does games and commentary. He also wore a pretty elaborate Black Flash costume for Halloween. Now, on top of that, the official DC Instagram page shared his photos. So, in a live stream this week, it was on the 4th, iShowSpeed saw that, and he saw that DC shared it, and he got excited. He said, "This was lit. Y'all know me. I'm the biggest DC fan in the world." He also said, I'm DC over Marvel. And he shared that he read a lot of Flash comics as kids. It's just a good thing, I think, in general, when somebody outside of comics can give comics a boost and then also does say, hey, I'm a fan because of the comics, not because of TV or movies or something like that. So that's good. That's good. I don't know this guy, though, beyond that. I had to look up who he was. I just saw that it was getting a lot of attention. Flash has been doing really well ever since, I would say, the Mark Waid, Mike Wieringo era. It's been pretty strong ever since then. Yeah. It's a very disturbing villain. Like, he's basically a form of death that chases after you. Gabba Gabba, one of us. Gabba Gabba, one of us. I don't know what you're talking about unless you're talking about gabagool. I need some gabagool in my mouth. Thank you for the super chat. Tom Taylor has a comic that's becoming an animated movie. Tom Taylor, pretty famous these days, writing at DC, really long run on Nightwing, some other DC stuff, but there's something he did back in the day called Neverlanders. So Australia's animation studio Pixel Zoo announced that they're going to adapt Neverlanders. That makes sense. If you don't know, Tom Taylor is also Australian. So the comic that they're adapting is by Tom and John Somariva. I'm guessing at the pronunciation of the name. Sorry if I got it wrong, John. It's a slightly grittier take on Peter Pan's Neverland, where it's basically a war zone between fairies and pirates, and a new group of lost ones need to save the day. I say grittier, but it is still a young adult graphic novel. No word in the news announcements on what animation style it would have, because Pixel Zoo does do both traditional 2D and 3D, but I would say they seem to do a lot more 3D, including animation for toy companies like MGA. I think that they do the Rainbow High stuff. Hasbro, they do stuff like that, especially stuff that's been on YouTube. What you get when you leave a zombie out for too long in the sun, Christopher? Gabagool. Hey, I'm a professional here. Thank you very much, Stefan. It was a Freaks reference. I know that. I was Todd Browning, right? Todd Browning. I know Freaks. One of us. I've seen it. I was just having fun because I was thinking of Gabagool when you were saying Gabagool. There should be. That's ultra grim and gritty. So that's taking it up an even more. What word could I possibly insert there to make that sentence make sense? I give up. I put it in the thumbnail. I'll talk about it. Funko is a local company to me, by the way. And I'm not super into Funko. I'll just say that up front. I'm not totally against them or anything. I've been to their flagship store, and it's kind of beautiful. There are these huge areas for like Star Wars and Marvel Comics and stuff, like these sets. You sort of feel like you're walking through something immersive, like a Disney experience. You can make your own Funko, including one that looks like you there. It's not bad. But anyway, they're not doing so well, which I think if anybody's been following, we've kind of known this for a while. But they filed a new report with the SEC, and it shows that the company is experiencing significant financial struggles. Significant. The report shows that Funko's sales have tanked by 20% year over year. That's a big drop, recording a loss of $1 million in just the third quarter. Oops. Funko acknowledges the company's financial trouble, saying that it has, quote, substantial doubt about its ability to continue as a company throughout the next year. So, yeah, we might be down to the final year of new Funko stuff. The company also reportedly has about $250 million in debt. That's not a great position to be. Here are my opinions on why it's doing bad. Overproduction, declining demand, and an over-reliance on both licensing and especially on chasing fads and trends. But, I mean, it's such overproduction, you know, like say I collect I've sort of backed off, but I used to collect variants of Donatello from Ninja Turtles because there have been different eras, right? You know, different animations, live action, and plus they'll give the turtles weird jobs sometimes for these figures. So I've had a fun collection there. And if I wanted to expand that to include the Funko Pop Donatellos, there's got to be like 20 to 30 variants there, you know? It's just too much of the same thing. Too many recolors, too many slight changes, too many exclusives for too many stores. They tried to create something that's collectible, and they quickly made it impossible to really accurately be able to collect even the thing that you're into, because there's so many variants, and so there's just way too many of them. And I think that people are getting burned out. I think people have been burned out for a long time, to be honest, because there was an era you would go to a comic convention and, oh my God, there were so many retailers selling these damn things. And while they're still there, it's way less in the last few years, way less in the last few years. And they never came up with something new enough. You know, they've got the look, right? But you need to do something else. It's like putting all your eggs in one basket at the end of the day. They're like, this is what a Funko Pop is. Well, it's not like, say, Hasbro only makes one action figure series. You know, it's not like Mattel only makes Barbie. They've got other toy lines. And so there's so many of these things out there that, yeah, I do have one or two. Of course, I think everybody ends up like being given one or two at some point. Yeah, Mundo made some cool exclusive stuff for both toys and art. I agree. It's never been something I really wanted to get too into, to be honest. I'd say that they're the modern day Beanie Babies, but they've definitely outlasted that, right? It's been going a long time. At a con, Funko vendor or fudge vendor, choose. Fudge. Fudge. Is that how much they are? Is $15 a piece? Boy, that's a lot. But then again, plastic costs have gone up. Plus, it's all made, you know, in China, and the tariffs. Like, toys just cost a lot these days. But when you think about Funko had produced so much stuff that they couldn't clear their own warehouse, and they had to take something like $100 million in inventory as a write-off, and they just buried it in a landfill. And if you could look, if you were like some sort of angelic being with the power to look at all of humanity at whatever speed you wanted, and you could see these dinosaurs come into being, these great brontosauruses and Tyrannosaurus rexes stomping across the land, and then they die, and they slowly decompose, and their body turns into oil, and then fast forward millions of years, and that oil gets sucked up and turned into plastic, and then nobody touches it, and it goes right back into the earth. And I'm sure that there are some dinosaur ghosts out there going like, whoa. They wanted to at least be useful a second time. Oh, man. That also did happen to the E.T. Atari game. They literally produced more copies of the game than there were consoles, I believe. So it was never going to work. Yeah, just crazy. Every dinosaur that ever lived, there's a little bit of them in every Funko Pop. And now they're right back in the ground. Yeah, that's true. I never thought of that. There are Funkos of dinosaurs. That's just crazy. I think that going by how much in debt they are and how they've never really significantly changed up what they do to diversify enough I don't think that they're going to be around that much longer, which ironically will make some of what they made much more in demand. But I have a very hard time believing that somebody is going to be looking for, say, a Captain Crunch Funko Pop in 20 years, you know? I like that. Yeah. The Funko CEO has 3 ghostly dinosaurs visit him on Christmas Eve. Labubu is the new wave, but I don't know for sure exactly which company does that, but I think that they do several different types of toys that are all created by different artists, right? Like I think that they also do like the Skull Panda and things like that, right? I could be wrong and they're just sold at the same store. I don't know. I'll just say that, like, obviously Labubu is like a big fad right now, but when we were at New York Comic Con this last time, my buddy Evan, his daughter is 13. She wants a Labubu. That's fine. That makes sense. She's the market for it. But he was looking at it and they're like $40. And he's like, I'm not going to pay that for it. You know, it's just, no, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, yeah. But we did come across one place that was selling it for 25 instead of all the other places that were selling it for 40. And he goes, okay, you know, that's enough. And he got her one. I don't know. It's just that there's so many of these based on comic books and that you see them at comic conventions and comic book stores. And I feel bad for comic book stores because they are also trying to not put all of their eggs in one basket by just selling comic books. You try to sell some t-shirts, you try to sell some action figures, you try to sell like related items. But some of these stores went way too all in on the Funko Pops, and they're going to have a hard time unloading them pretty soon. All right, that's all I got to say about that. A popular older horror comic is going to get a movie adaptation. The Upturned Stone. If you haven't read it, I don't blame you because it did come out all the way back in 1993. It's by a guy named Scott Hampton. And it got optioned this week as a film. It's a cool story. Story is King Pictures has the rights, and they're going to have Hampton himself write the screenplay. I think that that's usually a good first step. The story, I just wanted to share this with you guys a little in case you don't know about it. The story features some friends, like 4 friends, as I recall. Back in 1969, one of their mothers gives them $2 to buy a pumpkin for Halloween. But they're like, let's buy some comic books with it, and we'll just cut a wild pumpkin. So they get some comic books, and on the way home, they stop by this graveyard, and there's a pumpkin growing out of an anonymous grave. So they chop it down and take that home. Well, later, after Halloween, it's turned into pumpkin pie. They all eat it, and they each start having these very vivid dreams, the memories of this anonymous teenager who was killed, and they each get part of the dream to understand what happened to him. And I won't spoil anything else, but it's really cool. It's really cool. Interesting. You thought it was a snail. That is definitely a gourd. Sorry to hear that you're having some tough times. Yeah, I hope that hanging out with all of us is a good time. This is just meant to... I mean, sometimes we'll talk about some negative things like in the news, but we're joking around about it and trying to have fun for the most part. A legendary manga creator shared that he has a cancer diagnosis. However, it's not completely bad. Let me talk about this. First of all, I'm talking about Hideshi Hino, and very influential horror mangaka. Very influential. For some reason, my phone thought that I was talking to it. He's 79. He's written some really famous stuff. Panorama of Hell, Red Snake, The Town of Pigs. Recommended. If all you've seen for Japanese horror is Junji Ito, no shade. That stuff's great. Ino is a lot older. He's been doing this for a long time. Very influential. There's a lot of great horror mangaka out there, by the way. A lot of them. I mean, I think Kitaro is one that everybody should read. Anyway, this week on Hino's official Twitter page, he shared that he's been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, but it hasn't spread, and he's currently doing chemotherapy to, shrink the cancer, hopefully. He's going to have surgery in January. And I thought he had a good outlook on it. He said, this is the result of drinking and smoking heavily my whole life. And I have no one to blame but myself. So I have to take responsibility for this. It's a very mature way to approach it. I would be scared. But I certainly wish the best to Hideshi Hino and his family and friends. And I think that there's a good chance at beating this. The pancreas is very nice to have, but you can definitely cut a bunch of it out and be okay. So if it hasn't spread beyond that, he's got a really good chance. I hope so. That's a fair point. They do seem to drink and smoke a lot. In fact, who was the late mangaka that did Golgo 13? I really like his work. I'm trying to remember his name all of a sudden. Because I came across a really cool video this week where he's a smoker, okay? That's why I'm thinking of it. And thank you. Yes, Takeo Saito. Saito was illustrating his assassin character, Golgo 13, for some sort of a documentary or something, and he's smoking, right? And he uses some whiteout, and then to dry it faster, a lot of mangaka may have like a hair dryer or something. He just takes his cigarette and holds it really close to the whiteout, doesn't get ash on it, but uses the heat of his cigarette to just dry the whiteout that much faster and goes back to smoking and drawing. And I was like, sorry, I know we're not supposed to, approve of smoking, but goddamn, that looked cool to me. That looked so damn cool. So we'll see. Yes, thank you. It was from Monben. Yes. My hero. My hero. I love Monben. Anyway. It is gnarly. It's still sort of cartoony and stuff. It's nice. Hino is so talented. Very much agree. Recently, the main distributor for his manga in English also got cancer and unfortunately passed away. That I did not hear about. He was the one guy who ran Starfruit Books. Oh, well, that is too bad. That is too bad. Hope his loved ones are doing all right. Monben is what inspired me to create comic tropes in many ways, folks, if you don't know. I'm trying to think of what to say. Anyway, I guess I don't have an example here. Anyway, there's a creator I love, Naoki Urasawa. He's done Pluto, 20th Century Boys, Monster, a million other great manga. And he does a documentary series where he interviews one specific mangaka and goes over their process and makes like these mini documentaries, like 1 hour episodes for NHK TV, which is sort of Japan's PBS. Yeah. So good. Monben. Manben. Look it up. A lot of them are on YouTube. I don't think all of them, but a lot of them. Fu Action has been delayed. And Fu Action, if you don't know, is a comic collection of comic strips from a magazine back in the day. It had this title. And they were drawn by Jamie Hewlett, the guy that created the Gorillas, Tank Girl, and co-written with Matt Wakeham. It had its special editions released recently, the special edition of these collections, but their standard edition still hasn't come out. And this week they posted that it was delayed, and they seem to be frustrated themselves. On their official Facebook page, they posted, Well, fook me if this doesn't take the piss biscuits. Can you tell they're British? Back in August, I took to this very platform to trumpet the upcoming release of the standard edition of Fu Action Silver Jubilee. We were all set for an October rollout. Horns were tooted. Hype was hyped. But it's now November, and in case you hadn't noticed, the book is nowhere to be bloody seen. In fact, it won't be seen until next bloody summer. That's right, 9 more goddamn months. I'd love to tell you some fun and fascinating behind-the-scenes factoids about how this came to pass, but quite frankly, it's just a fuck-up. Anyway, you can still order the special edition of it, and it's actually on sale at Amazon. So if you're a big Jamie Hewlett fan and you're getting impatient for the standard edition that's cheaper, all I can say is you can get the special edition for almost the same price on sale. So that's why I put up this Amazon link that you can do. Hope that helps. No, very different Fu, and totally different from Poot. Here's a Kickstarter that has a cool thing to get with it that you can only get through the Kickstarter. Unpublished Neal Adams art. Wow. Well, can I put the link in the chat? I could do that. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. How do I do this? Can I copy it? I can do it like this and like this. There. I put it in the live chat. All right. Now, moving on. No, Kickstarter has some unpublished Neal Adams art. So, I see how it could be read. Kickstarter has unpublished. No, I'm not using unpublished as a verb. I'm using it as an adjective. I see how that could be read. My bad. But this is meant to be an adjective. Okay, so there's currently a Kickstarter for a comic book version of the 90s cartoon SWAT Cats. I don't know SWAT Cats. It's, again, one of those blind spots in the mid-90s for me. But the comic has art by Jorge Corona. That's pretty cool. Rotatelli Productions and the Tremblay brothers have partnered with Continuity Studios and Neal Adams' estate to include 2 pieces of art by Neal Adams, who had passed away, for the record, 3 years ago. Neal had been hired to create 2 pieces. I'm only showing one, but he'd been hired to create 2 pieces of art for SWAT Cats by Hanna-Barbera back in '93, but it was never used. So now there are 18 days left on the Kickstarter. It is $150 for the tier that gives you these covers, and they're a tri-gatefold, so that the cover folds out into thirds because it's panoramic. Or what would I call that? Landscape style. Yeah. Just kind of cool, especially if you're a Neal Adams fan, to come across art by him that was never published before in a new comic. It's rare. I'm sure that there's 1 or 2 pieces out there that DC might have, but there can't be much. There can't be much. Hanna-Barbera made it, but I think it was by the Tremblay brothers, the two guys that are real brothers. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't know it at all. Just thought I'd put it on people's radar. A comic dealer discusses how she was trafficked by Epstein. A little bit of a serious story. I'll try to just do it kind of quickly. BBC Newsnight interviewed Ashley Rubright, and she had been abused and trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein back when she was a teenager. She was speaking to the BBC about the connections also between Epstein and Prince Andrew. And during the interview, you can see she just has a ton of comic books behind her. So to somebody like me, I'm just like, wait, what? Why are there comic books in this news story? How is this connected? It's not really connected. It's just who she is. Because Ashley and her husband are comic dealers. and they run brokeasscomics.com as well as the Facebook group Broke Ass Rejects. And I just thought I'd put this here to show that this is a case that touches people from all walks of life. It's pretty crazy horrible that she had to go through that, but I'm glad that she's, in a successful relationship with a successful business. So, yeah, thought I'd share that positive bit that she seems to be doing well for herself right now. And she's into comics. So maybe you want to check out Broke Ass Comics and support her. I've got to visit this. Portland opened a comics museum. Portland is just about 3-hour drive to my south. And I think it's a small museum, but I still think this is very cool. So the new Northwest Museum of Cartoon Arts in Portland, Oregon, had a ribbon cutting ceremony for its museum just this past Monday. The event brought together dozens of the community's most prominent comics creators. We've got Kelly Sue DeConnick, David Walker, Matt Fraction, Brian Michael Bendis. Very, very cool. Portland has a tremendous comics community. A lot of professionals, a lot of comic book stores. It really does make sense that a city like Portland gets any kind of a comic book museum. It makes a lot of sense. It's small, but cool stuff packed in, worth visiting. Small, but cool. Glad to see that some folks have been able to check it out. I'm putting this on people's radar. The museum is divided into 6 sections. Each focuses on a different part of Portland's comics history. Portland also is home to publishers, comic book publishers, Dark Horse and Image Comics. So, yeah. The museum's board chair and just de facto museum director, Michael Rosen, said that the museum serves as a place to showcase the history of the Pacific Northwest comics, as well as being a community center for artists and comic lovers. So that's great to see. Currently, it's in a soft opening, but it will have an official opening to the greater general public December 9th. I'm looking forward to checking it out at some point. Yeah, I'd love to go down. I think it would be really cool. Let's see. John says, I was there at the opening. I'm really looking forward to all the great exhibits and events that are going to be held there. Me too. Me too. You can have some original art that rotates. You can have stuff about the history, a small store, a workspace for people to jam together. It's really, really nice to see. Congratulations to Portland. Yep. Mike Allred, Craig Thompson. Who's that great artist that did the many deaths of Jimmy Olsen and did Whiteout with Greg Rucka? Steve Lieber. Steve Lieber's there. Some great stores. Yeah. Very, very cool. Thought I'd share it. Yeah, Steve Lieber. Thank you. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of people. Oh, I think also some of the guys from... Oh, I'm blanking on who else I'm thinking of, but there's some others. All right. You know what? If you're going to be sarcastic, then show's over. No. Last piece of news I got. Sweet Shop digital comics platform has launched their beta. So yet another digital comics platform. This one is an app, and Sweet Shop already has 24 publishers signed on. They currently have an invite-only beta, which you can access on their website. You can get an invite. But they plan to launch their app on both iOS and Android soon. What makes them any different than these other places? Well, first of all, they've got a lot of good publishers. That includes Image, Dark Horse, Oni, Mad Cave. I want to say Kodansha. Not Marvel or DC, at least not yet, but a lot of others. A lot of others. You can sign up there, sweetshop.app, and here's some of their features. DRM-free downloads, day and date purchases, multiple reading modes, depending on how you like reading it, guided, whole page, zoom in, zoom out, panel by panel, whatever you want. They also share in profits with actual retail stores that work with them. So say a comic book store was just like, you know what? I don't think I can sell this Oni comic. It's just not my audience. But then like 1 or 2 people came in asking for it. And if they referred them to Sweet Shop will kick back a percentage of that sale to the shop. So that's kind of nice. They're working with the store on that regard. They also made a pledge that they will never sell AI comics. They said that they specifically have programming to make sure that they're going through and making sure that there's no AI generated art. So that's pretty cool. Sweatshop. That would be kind of funny. DRM free. I just thought it was worth sharing, especially because I know some people do read digitally, and I thought that you should know about this. I like that they have said no to AI art and that they found a way to partner with stores so that they're not completely in competition. They could theoretically work together on some level. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. Good luck. No. Sweet Shop is by a guy who's done other comic book apps. Like he's got a great app for finding a comic book store, and I think some others for like organizing your collection. So a guy who really focuses on the user interface, specifically with comic book apps. So he does have background in that, but the Comixology people are the ones that launched Neon Ichiban, if you remember hearing about that. Very different in some ways from Kindle. In Kindle, you still have to go to a website to buy it. This stuff you can buy in app. So first of all, that makes it much easier. Kindle, you have to buy it on the website and then download it through the app, which is stupid. Marvel Unlimited is obviously just Marvel, and it's a subscription system. This is buying, individual books from multiple publishers. You can download it and read it offline. There's a couple other differences. I'm not an expert, but there's a few things. But that's what I've got for news. But I also have a bunch of comics that we should review this week. So bear with me. I think it's... Whoops. I glitched myself. Hold on. All right. There I am. Let's bring up my second camera, and we will shift into the reviews part of the show.
Let's review.
Review it.
The review.
The reviews are in. I repeat, the reviews are in.
Go to your reviews.
What? Speaking of bad reviews.
Don't worry about that review.
Let's review all the facts.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
Before we do, let's review.
Those reviews really came out fast.
Maybe we can review some right now?
I'm not going to review all that again.
Now let's review.
Not my worst review.
Let's review, shall we? To review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
All right. I forgot to actually add the camera after all that. I turned it on, though. Hold on one moment. Adding an extra camera for us. There we go. And I'll zoom in a little bit. Is that good enough resolution, I hope? I'm going to shift a few things around here. Yeah. There we go. Thanks for your patience. Guess who the subject of my next Comic Tropes episode is? I've already recorded it. I'm in the editing phase. I'm making a Dan Mora episode right now. Anyway, I also have enjoyed a lot of Joshua Williamson's writing lately. I'm really enjoying his G.I. Joe, if I'm being completely upfront. That's the thing that I like the most. I decided to check out Knightfight mostly because of the team on this. Dan Mora on art, Joshua Williamson writing. It's a tie-in to the KO event, but the only important part of this is that it's a tie-in in the sense that Batman seemed to have been sort of wiped out of the tournament, and he had some sort of weird backup plan with apocalyptic technology that brought him back to Gotham. Okay, so that was his backup plan. Batman's always got a backup plan. But the Gotham that he returns to seems to be in the near future when all of his Robins are adults and have also trained new Robins to defend the city. And for some reason, they're really against Batman. So this is Dick Grayson now. He's taken over as Batman. I don't completely understand yet why things have gone this way. I assume that it's got something to do with how Darkseid has been negatively influencing the universe, and like Batman just ended up in the near future, like a bad near future. You know, I think we've basically got a Batman version of Days of Future Past. I think, to put it in nerdy comic book terms. I didn't find the story exceptionally satisfying in terms of, you know, Batman dealing with his kids basically, as well as his mentees, you know, but he keeps calling them all his sons. It works a little bit, but I feel like the metaphor isn't completely landing for me in terms of a broken father-son relationship. Maybe that will get enhanced and fleshed out in future issues, because there's probably a lot of groundwork to lay for just the meat and potatoes of establishing like this. However, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that was some of the gimmick, but I can understand it since this one focuses so much on Dick, and then there's still Damian, Tim, and Jason. Okay, that makes sense. Focuses on each of their relationships, huh? It's got some room to go. I will say the art's fantastic. The art is just so damned good. I think it takes a lot of artists a lot of time to get to the point where they can confidently lay out an action page that's a 2-page spread with so many panels, have it read clearly, and also sort of just look pleasing left to right. It's got some very clean left to right action as compared to, you know, a shot that's coming towards you or going away from you. Since it's a 2-page spread and we're reading this primarily horizontally, it really emphasizes the left to right nature of things. Decisions like, you know, being thrown through the glass, ducking, you know, a what do you call it? I was going to say a boomerang, but, you know, a batarang or whatever. And left to right punches. Like, there could have been a very different way to show some of these action scenes, but it's very intentionally moving across. So there's a feeling of continued motion. I like that. Always interesting seeing Dan Mora play with weather. He really has grown as an artist because, like I say, I'm doing an episode right now about him, and oh my God, folks, the detail that he would put into his backgrounds in Klaus with Grant Morrison is mind-blowing. All right. And he still puts in plenty of detail on certain backgrounds, but he also knows that you don't always have to do that. For instance, you know, they're in like an underground lab here. This is enough of an establishing shot for us to know that they're in a wide open space. Therefore, you can use no background and use the negative space to enhance the reveal of a character. So and look, it's a lot easier to fill up the real estate with a face than it is to like draw a super complex 3-point perspective background. So that's a decision that like aids in how fast he can draw, but he's found a way to make it an appropriate storytelling moment to do that. And he still gives you enough of a background somewhere on the page that you can, without even really thinking about it, you know the environment. There's still, like, almost every page will have a really good background, and some of them, like when you establish a completely new setting or a new overall scene, it'll have an exceptionally well-rendered background. But you don't have to do that necessarily every page, and certainly not every panel. I would agree with that in a lot of ways. I really would. He's, basically the most popular out there right now. I think that is a pretty fair argument to make. But I love his work. I really do. I'm at risk of saying a lot of the same things that I'm saying in my upcoming episode, but there's so much strong structure underlying it that he doesn't always have to spend too much time on certain pages with lots of shadows or lots of rendering. He's just got rock solid structure to his anatomy and his layouts. Very, very solid. And because he can, when he needs to, be sparse with that line work, it can help emphasize things. Look, I'll end it there, but it's fun. I didn't quite get the emotional impact I was hoping for with a father-son story. Those can really affect me when they're done well. But the art alone easily makes it worth picking up. I'll keep this a little more brief because I do know that G.I. Joe is a somewhat niche compared to how much I love it. I'm excited to see that the Energon universe is popular and that there's lots of new people discovering G.I. Joe. I love Tom Riley's art in this, and it's so exciting to have him back as the main artist. He took a break for a small subplot series of 2 to 3 issues, but boy, is he good. He draws a Cobra Commander that looks classic, but with a few details that emphasize something new. I recognize, say, a Dreadnok like Ripper, but he has also drawn him so huge that you go, okay, even if this is a big, dumb lunkhead, I get how he's a danger. He's just gigantic. Anyway, this is kind of a classic thing that happens in G.I. Joe comics. The hierarchy in Cobra trying to double-cross each other and take over. And I won't get into it a whole lot. All that's important is that Cobra Commander gets ambushed by the Dreadnoks. And let me show you one cool page, okay? They're in the Chihuahuan Desert down in like southern Texas. And look at this scene that shows the Dreadnoks, who are a biker gang, if you don't know. They're a mercenary biker gang that traditionally has worked for Cobra. But in this, they haven't formally been hired yet. Anyway, in this, they're coming to kill Cobra Commander. They're new in this continuity, okay? And what they've done something cool here. They've added a ton of new Dreadnoks. It's a biker gang. So they added all these extra characters that we've never had before. And it leans into, obviously, if you look at this, that looks like Mad Max Fury Road, right? Or at least a Mad Max movie. But that's what the Dreadnoks were originally very much based on. In fact, let me regale you with a little bit of crazy G.I. Joe trivia. The Dreadnoks are led by this guy Zartan, and otherwise there's just a bunch of, big dumb bikers, ruthless mercenaries. And originally, Hasbro wanted to make them a team of monstrous little teddy bears because of the popularity of the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. Now, Larry Hama was the guy that wrote the comic book that created most of the mythology, as well as writing the file card descriptions of the personalities for all the action figures. So he wrote like the back of the toys, had little file cards, okay? And he was like, no. He tells Hasbro, he goes, No, that does not fit. That is flat out a bad idea. He goes, let me pitch you a different version of that. Instead, it's going to be a team of bikers, but we'll dress them up to make them a little sci-fi. We're going to sort of dress them up like the wild weirdos in the then somewhat also recent movie Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. And Hasbro's like, oh, okay, yeah, that works too. So Larry Hama saved G.I. Joe from just absolutely collapsing that year. You know, like what was that, 84 or 85 or something when they released the Dreadnoks? It would have been terrible. It would not have worked at all. Like the teddy bears. It would have been too sci-fi. They could do that in the cartoon. They did do some bonkers weird sci-fi stuff in the cartoon, but the toy line and the comics were a little bit more reality based. Not always. Every once in a while you got sort of a super sci-fi idea, but that was one that Larry Hama shut down, and he came up with the Dreadnoks, and they proved to be very popular. Oh yeah, it should also be noted that that's why most of the original Dreadnoks were Australian, because of Mad Max. And they would wear sort of the body armor and drive vehicles around in the desert and stuff. So yeah, I just gave you a little bit of a piece of G.I. Joe history. Well, Joshua Williamson has obviously taken that idea and extrapolated a biker gang with 1 leader and 3 guys. That's not much of a biker gang, that's just 4 dudes. So he's created a whole army of new characters. And the fun of that is that we can wipe out most of these guys in this next saga, the Dreadnok War. It's going to be 5 issues coming out twice a month. That's why Tom Riley didn't draw the last arc. He was getting ahead drawing this. This is going to come out twice a month. Some of this is fun. Some of these are made up vehicles, and some of these were actually toys. These 3 were actually toys in the line. Anyway, it's just a really fun way to have taken the history of G.I. Joe as well as a meta aspect of the making of G.I. Joe and turn it into something new for this series. I think it's great. By the way, let's just fold this out. Double page spread. Again, an explosion with 2 motorcycles, or really dirt bikes, flying through the air. Very much an homage to Mad Max Fury Road. Very, very much. Yeah, if they were 4 guys, it would only be a rugby club. Care Bear Dreadnoks. Terrible idea, right? Isn't that wild? Yes. Zartan is unique amongst the rest of them. He's the leader, and he was always supposed to be a master of disguise. But that, they made the toy change to a gray color if he was exposed to UV sunlight. So then the cartoon had to sort of say okay, he's weak to direct sunlight, and that ruins his disguises. Whereas the comic mostly had him just dress up as somebody else and wear a mask, or as things went on, he had hologram technology. But in the cartoon, he was almost some sort of a weird mutant. This is the final issue of the, at least first arc, of Post Malone's Big Rig. It's not perfect, but this book was way better than I expected it to be. I thought it was a blast. I think that it's got its own lore that hangs together quite well. It's got rock solid artwork. It's fun to look at. It's gory and gnarly stuff. It's a battle in the medieval times, and it's got devils and it's got knights, and one of the knights summoned a truck that came from the future. But in this one, the finale, we escalate that with a devil bringing a rig from hell called the Blood Rig. So we've got a big rig versus the Blood Rig. It's fun. So we've got, also a little bit Mad Maxy. We've got vehicle on vehicle action of them crashing into each other. Now, if I do have a complaint about this book, it's this. Every once in a while, there are panel-to-panel moments where I didn't understand the action sequence 100%. Okay? Yeah, like every once in a while I had to like sort of go back and look at it a little more carefully. The individual illustrations, nicely rendered, very exciting. But following it page to panel, every once in a while I was a little confused. Like in this, the good guy's rig is here and the devil rig is approaching it and it crashes into it. But I really had to look at this if it wasn't colored, this isn't quite enough of like the devil rig for me to see. I think that one of these two panels should have somehow been even bigger to account for exactly what we're seeing here. Or maybe instead of two panels, maybe we have to just, for narrative consistency or expediency, for narrative expediency, maybe we have to combine these two into one bigger dynamic shot. Maybe. Which isn't like, the ideal outcome, but sometimes you have to make those compromises. I would just say that's my only complaint, is that here and there, panel to panel, I would get a little confused. But I did love the escalation in the 4th issue of a devil coming to Earth and bringing this huge rig that heals from traditional damage. Steve asks, what's your big rig's name, Chris? Waiting for trade. My big rig. I guess it would just be called the Chris rig, right? The Chris rig. Not the big rig, the Chris rig. This is quite strong, folks. Double-sized issue, just like last one. Meant that, it only took 4 issues to tell a pretty big story. Thank you for this. My cats chipped in. Love your work. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's really nice. By the way, my one-time co-host in this, and usually she's a guest in the live chat, Jeannie, she got to adopt 2 kittens this week, and they're very, very cute. They're mostly white with a little gray, brother and sister. Very, very cute. I'm happy for it. They look amazing. So I would say Big Malone, Post Malone's big rig was a pleasant surprise. I got it because of the covers by Jim Mafood and Peach Momoko. But I ended up being really impressed with the story by writer, or co-writer anyway, Adrian Wassel and artist Nathan Gooden. I thought that they did a really nice job. Latest issue of Orphan and the Five Beasts is fantastic, over the top, exploitation kung fu, like Chinese kung fu, closer to like what you'd see in like the 1970s with like weird supernatural stuff and, gory monsters and stuff. Yeah, and stuff and like. But James Stokoe is having so much fun with this, and I am here for it. A lot of passion in this. It's a blast. Issue 24 is already the 6th issue drawn by Connor Hughes of Void Rivals, and they've got a new artist joining soon. But boy, Connor Hughes is really good. Just really nice, clean lines. I'm gonna miss Connor Hughes on this book. Very good artist for this book. This is great, wacky sci-fi, building up all sorts of subplots and balancing that with just world building, adding some new characters, writing others out. I'm pretty sure that Springer and Hot Rod have left the title for now. But we've also got a new Transformer character, Wheelie, who I have to admit, I always found kind of obnoxious in the cartoon because he speaks in like rhymes and stuff. Thank you. Post Malone was born in Steve's home of Syracuse, New York. But I don't mind Wheelie in this context. He's he's just such an underdog and an unlikely character to be teaming up with Pythona from Cobra Law as they deal with quintessons that are about to attack the main characters and void rivals. So this book does have a little bit of everything from new characters, a little Transformers, and a little G.I. Joe. It's fun. This is the last full book that I've got. And I was excited because Liam Sharp, really cool storyteller. He's wanted to tell a Conan story for a very long time. And he finally got the perfect place to be able to do it. He tells a story called Tattered Wings. He writes and draws. And it's a strange supernatural story with multiple parties deceiving one another as well as Conan. And Conan being a much smarter than he's ever given credit for barbarian. But that's the fun of Conan that I think a lot of people forget, is that he is very clever. He eventually becomes a king, and it's because he's smart. I won't try to break down the full story, but what I will say is I think it's very clear that Liam had a lot of passion for telling this story, because the amount of detail and the ideas that he has for these various characters are just, it just seems like a lot of extra work than a traditional story. Let me give you an example. Beyond just interesting characters, interesting environments, he's got the occasional page that will be primarily design. I'm trying to find like a good one. Yeah, maybe a page like this is a decent example. Oh, let me acknowledge this. Thank you, Mike. Back from helping the kid with math. Have $5. Oh man, I feel like I helped the kid with math. Your kid's hilarious, Mike. Thank you very much for the support, buddy. Sometimes he just gets very metaphysical with the story, and he comes up with these really nice, almost symmetrical splash page layouts. And I like that. There's a lot of black. There's a lot of hatching. Very, very cool. This is what I mean by like how many different characters there are. There's like werewolves, but they're really like just sort of a small piece of the overall story. Some of these pages have some nudity, so I'm being a little careful with everything that I show. Here's another one that I mean, where he just, he's got, instead of just having characters dialogue, walk back and forth and talk, he adds these extra interesting, ornate, and intricate design elements to it, which just shows me he's going the extra mile with this because he was excited to tell this. This was his story that he has a complex idea that deals with identity and meaning. I loved it. And there's still just some cool, badass fight scenes. Of course there are. It's Conan. It's Liam Sharp. It makes sense. It's a great, huge story, to be honest. Really big. Really big. There's also a backup story. It's smaller. It's a different Robert E. Howard character. Cormac McCart. A sailor adventure character. Written by Ron Mars. Short story. Art by Danny Earls. Has Danny doing some of what he's good at, which is fighting strange demonic monsters. Danny's really good at that stuff, as well as he's good at like laying a scene with fog and rain and stuff like that. He does really good job. He does a lot of this with actual like watercolors and washes. He'll really layer this stuff on. It's pretty. It's really pretty. This is a really special issue, folks. Just came out. It's issue 11, $6.99. Probably not sold out most places. Absolute Batman Annual and Youngblood. These are books that are selling out right away, and you have to have pre-ordered them. But it's a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of work. Look at like how intricate this double-page splash is of Conan walking through a hall full of treasures. The magazine isn't, anything that is aimed at kids. So this is a bit more adult in terms of it has nudity and a little more explicit violence, but it's really, really strong. Ron is great at writing for the artist. Interesting to know. I remember, discovering a lot of, when I discovered Green Lantern, it really was Ron Mars's Green Lantern. Read a bunch of his Silver Surfer stuff. So I've read a lot of his cosmic stuff, and I always liked that. I strongly recommend this. This is a great issue, folks. I felt like it was a nice palate cleanser because it was not another Conan story. It was a different adventurer character. It was a different tone. And it really allowed it to be a palate cleanser and not compete for trying to be the same, epic and blood and guts battle type thing. It felt different enough that it did not feel like they were trying to compete for the same exact vibe. But I think that this is some of Liam's best work. I really do. And I don't say that lightly. He's done some great stories. And, I know that he's really passionate about his book Starhenge. I think he's a great fit for Conan. And I think that Liam's art has only gotten better over the years. If you looked at a lot of his 90s art, I think that you see somebody that's doing... I'm going to sneeze. Sorry about that. Okay. I think a lot of his art was emulating some of the stylistic techniques of the time that were popular with, Jim Lee and Liefeld and stuff. But now he's evolved into, there's some of that still, but there's also a way that he approaches hatching and stuff that reminds me closer to people like Barry Windsor Smith, actually, who was also, of course, the first comic book Conan artist. Not explicitly trying to be Barry Windsor Smith at all. I'm just saying that there are little touches that remind me of his way of doing detailing. And there's a lot of different techniques at display here. There's hatching, there's stippling, there's cross hatching, there's deep, lush shadows, there's feathering. There's a lot of different techniques used here to indicate different textures. So even though this doesn't have any grayscaling, it still seems to have a lot of depth and texture to it. So look at this. This is not like, if this was a manga, we would absolutely have a lot of grayscaling or screen tones to indicate like shadows on the characters or the mountains. But really, this is all done with just pen and ink. That's impressive. Yeah, maybe a little bit of that. I think that he's really evolved his art into very much his own. So that was something special that I wanted to share. And then I thought it would be fun to just chat with y'all and ink this sketch of Deck. Let me grab my... Where did I just put my pens to ink? Oh, right over here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, the panel borders alone, just really specially. Little extra detail, little extra work on all of it. Who here has seen Predator Badlands? I'm not going to spoil it at all, but I really liked it a lot. I'd say if I had to rank it within the Predator series, I think it's my personal second favorite after the original. I think a lot of people will still say that they preferred Prey over it, I would bet. And I love Prey. It's really good. I also really like Predators. But for me, I think this is my second favorite personally. I really thought it was strong. But again, I don't want to talk about it in any detail because I'd really recommend finding the time to go see it in a theater. You also? Oh yeah, I saw Killer of Killers, and in fact, I would say, I really liked Prey, and I really liked Killer of Killers, and there was a part of me that goes, can Dan Trachtenberg, do it for me a third time in a row in a relatively short amount of time, like a third really good Predator story of really good. Yeah, he did. And it's not going to work for everybody, this approach, but it works for me. He's not trying to replicate what has always worked and give you a little bit different, but more of the same. A lot of sequels do that, and that's fine. We almost expect that out of our sequels. But he very much decides to take a big swing with a new idea. And I heard him say in an interview, if you do the same thing, you might do all right, but you're going to get a lot of flack for it not being very ambitious. You're going to get a lot of flack if you take a big swing and do something very different too. He goes, but if I'm going to sort of have a failure, I guess I just rather fail doing something new than repeating something that's been done. And I go, okay, I like that attitude. I really do. Anyway, great characters, great themes, great action, great world building. I guess you could argue that some things aren't perfect for an effect here or there, or an editing choice here or there for, the action beats. And I'd say that is a very fair criticism if you have that. But for me, none of it was anything that would hold up my enjoyment in any meaningful way. So yeah, I thought it was quite a special movie. I'm excited. There's so much coming out this month. I've started watching the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein on Netflix, and very, very strong. Don't know if I like it more than, say, the original, which I love, but maybe we'll see. I like what I've seen so much so far. I'm looking really forward to a couple other movies that are coming out this month. The Running Man looks like a blast, and I don't think Edgar Wright has ever disappointed me now that I think of it. So that'll probably be really fun. And the sequel to Sisu, the Finnish action movie set in the late 40s. Oh man, I liked Sisu a lot. It's over the top action. It's badass. It's just a blast. And the fact that we get a second one where he goes up against evil Soviets, so looking forward to it. I did not see Begonia. Now, was Begonia the new Yorgos Lanthimos movie? It probably is. I do love Yorgos Lanthimos, and I haven't seen that yet. And I also feel really guilty. I haven't seen One Battle After Another. Both of those are probably things that I'm going to have to wait until streaming. I don't know. Missed a chance to call it Sitwo. Okay. Is it? Is Begonia a remake of a Korean movie? Oh. Yeah, I think you might be right. How do you think you'd feel inking and drawing without all of us? Oh, well, I think I probably honestly do a little better with the overall result. But it's fun to ink and chat. And the goal here when I ink on the live stream is not to do my best work ever. It's to try to have the patience to let it go and to try to occasionally speed up my decision-making process and go with the flow. So yeah, it's really nice to be able to chat with everybody and do it that way. I think I draw in a very different approach when I don't have, say, an audience. You know, it's much more internal. I really lose track of the time in a big way when I draw. Oh, I'm very aware Running Man is a remake. Yeah, I like man, 80s into the 90s Arnold Schwarzenegger movies are pretty damn good. Unfortunately, I believe I am working, so I don't think I'm going to get to go to Grit City. Are you going, John? Are you going? Would you be willing to open membership for the channel? What do you mean by open membership? I don't know what you mean. No. Sounds like my kind of thing. Oh, you're tabling? I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure I am scheduled to work, unfortunately. I usually do work on Saturdays. Saturdays and Wednesdays tend to be the days I work the most. Oh, I mean, to be clear, you can. I do have that option on YouTube. And there are a few people that kindly do it. It means a lot. It means a lot to me that some people are willing to do that. What I try to do to make it worth it is make one exclusive episode for YouTube channel members and Patreon members every month. I make like one episode that is exclusive, and every once in a while I might eventually release it to everybody else, but not always. It's always something small that I'll do for my members and my patrons at least the $2 and up level. Boy, that's nice of you to say. I feel like I've got a very long path ahead of me to get to a point where I'm content with my artwork, but I really do appreciate it. I sincerely think anybody can become a pretty darn good artist, but I do also admit you have to have the time to devote to that. A lot of people will say like, oh, I could never do that. And I'm like, I really do think that almost anybody could. You know, some people have absolutely no argument, a lot of natural skill and a lot of things like, you know, a great memory for detail, great patience for rendering, or great speed and confidence. There are tools that some people naturally have. However, I do think everybody can improve from where they are and become very good. It's appreciated. It's appreciated very, very much. They flow like unto the mountains do. It's just a big time commitment, I agree, and requires a stupid amount of enthusiasm for it. And that's the thing. And I think that they're tied together in a lot of ways, not exclusively, but I think, yes, drawing, if somebody was like, I want to be good at it and I don't feel I have natural aptitude, I go, that's fair. You do have to basically want to keep drawing. And I would understand if some people said, I have a hard time maintaining my excitement or my passion. For me, it doesn't wane. I could draw all the time. I don't have it would not be financially smart for me to draw all the time. I have to do other things to get bills paid. But I could always draw. I love it. It's very very relaxing for me most of the time. Sub-Zero. Now, just plain Zero. Gotta get the sugar-free Baja Blast. I kind of lost it at the very end there. I'm looking forward to seeing it. There are some writer-directors that never really disappoint me. Tarantino, Sam Raimi, certainly Paul Thomas Anderson. Some of it I'll like more than others, but I'm never disappointed. I had heard that. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question, Malik. And actually, yes, there very much was. I forget the exact timeline right now without double checking it, but it was whenever the Clone Wars was coming out. Clone Wars? Sorry, the Spider-Man Clone Saga, not Clone Wars. Still thinking Star Wars. That really did not land for me at all. And at the time, I really liked Spider-Man. And it was enough that I had other things going on, and I basically stopped getting comics on a weekly basis. I canceled my subscriptions, and I stopped going to a comic book store on a weekly basis. I never fully gave up on comics. I would still get like trade paperbacks or the occasional comic if I was going by a comic store, but I wasn't keeping up with it. And I would say that was, in retrospect, probably only about a year or so. But that was kind of my window where I did bail on comics to some extent for a while. And I can't really say that it was a regret either. There was probably a bunch of good stuff that I wasn't aware of, but I wasn't being exposed to it, and it was good to take a break. It was healthy. Now, these days, there's so much stuff that I really genuinely love, and it would take a lot to drive me away from comics right now. I would have to come across a lot of bad stuff that burns me out. And I'll tell you that it's harder to lose your passions in the modern day because you have the access of reviews being very accessible online and on your phone at any point in time. And that can really help guide you. When I was growing up, there was things like Nintendo, right? And there were anime movies that were released to VHS cassettes at place like, Suncoast Video and Strawberries and stuff. But it was much more of a crapshoot. And you would discover some stuff that you loved for a game or a movie. I know that I discovered some anime movies that I loved, like Akira, the original Ghost in the Shell. I want to say there was one called like Captain Tita, which had exceptional animation. And then sometimes you'd also get something where you were like, that animation does nothing for me. And I just spent like $35 or $40 on a 40-minute VHS tape. I don't want to get it anymore. It was really hard for a while in an era where you couldn't reliably get good reviews for some of these things that you were interested in, but you could end up spending a lot of money and not get a good value. It was very hard. To say nothing of comics. Right? It was so much money for me back then to take the risk. and you just sort of read the back covers of a bunch of stuff and go, I guess I'm going to take a shot. The weather's not too bad out here right now. Let me double check the actual like temperature out of curiosity. You know, it's 7 p.m. here. It's 50 degrees, mostly cloudy, but it's not really rainy. It's not that cold. I think that Plastic Little, and her name was Captain Tita. I think that's what it was called, Plastic Little. I just remember it being really good animation. I really found the main character of Deck in the new Predator movie to be very interesting. You know, it really brings up some of the... what word am I looking for? It brings up some of the problems with Predator culture, some of the things that don't quite make sense. And it really makes it an internal struggle for him, an internal conflict. Gundam Seed Destiny so bad, didn't watch anime 5 years. Yeah, I kind of bailed on anime for a while after discovering a lot of good stuff in the 80s. Do other people know about that one? Interesting. One thing I like about Predators is their unique skin texture calls for you to use techniques you don't always use otherwise when you're drawing. Like you almost are forced to do some stippling, at least for long distance type shots. It's like sort of the best way to indicate some of their lizardy, rough skin, if that makes sense. Great creature design. And I'm sure most people know this by now, but the Predator design was not the original design for the movie. They had a much more big bug-like creature when Jean-Claude Van Damme was the original stuntman. And fortunately, they saw that it wasn't really working, and they redid it. And thank goodness they did, because the Predator has a great look, that weird crab face and stuff. But he originally looked very different, and it didn't really work. And fortunately, they even though they'd filmed a bunch, they saw it, and they really did it. I think that there was a movie in the Predator series. It might have been Predators that used it again, like in as like an alien monster in the background. I want to say that it's sort of an Easter egg. I think it was Predators sort of used that design as a background element. Yeah, he was kind of a praying mantis. Didn't look that cool. Oh, yes. John McTiernan made some cool movies. Definitely went to jail for lying to the FBI for wiretapping someone illegally. Why don't you have a seat over there? Now, you claim that you're just a yautja, but isn't that another name for predator? I didn't see why, but I saw that somebody just mentioned Kazuo Koike, and I'm very excited for pretty soon. Dark Horse is going to be releasing big, what do you call them? Hardcover prestige editions of Lone Wolf and Little Cub. Very, very cool series. Why don't you have a seat right over there? I think he directed Die Hard 2. Yeah. Right. That's right. He did the Rollerball remake with that guy from the American Pie movies that was like the fourth friend, like not even the main guy. Oh my God, yes. Yeah. There's a lot, first of all, to go through. But first of all, the original Alien versus Predator series, top notch. The original Predator series, which is now subtitled Concrete Jungle and features Dutch's twin brother. I want to say John Schaefer. That's really good. I liked Bad Blood. Predator Bad Blood was good. That was early 90s. Predator, I think it was called Predator Captive, was really good. I feel like there's another one that I'm thinking of that was really good. Those I listed like 4 though, right? I think Bernie Wrightson did draw an Alien series. I know Walt Simonson drew the adaptation of the first Alien movie, which is very, very cool. I think I was looking up some of my favorite Predator comics recently because I liked the movie so much, and I'm trying to see if I listed it for myself. Concrete Jungle, I did. Hold on. Yeah, I was right. Captive, Concrete Jungle, Bad Blood versus Aliens. Oh, and Big Game. Big Game. That was a really good one. So those are just some of my favorites. No, I didn't play that game. Chris Warner was really a superstar for Dark Horse in the early days. Batman versus Predator is pretty cool. You're right. I like that. Yeah, I like that. Chris Claremont definitely wrote something. I think it might have been an Alien versus Predator. Or maybe it was just a book that crossed over somehow. I don't remember. It's too long ago now. I'm sorry. I don't remember. Anybody doing any travel for the holidays? I say, fortunately for me, no. I mean, I would love to see my family again. I just saw them, but I would love to see them again. But I'm not dealing with any big travel anytime soon. So for the holidays, I should probably be local. I wish I could travel somewhere fun, but definitely can't afford that for quite a while. That's okay, though. Just makes you more excited when you finally get to, I suppose. Trying to be positive. I'm trying to make a real effort to be more positive these days. It's hard. Long-time viewer, but do you genuinely dislike Funko Pops that much? Did I say that I dislike them that much? I just said that I wasn't super into them. And it's more just because I feel like they should have tried to vary things up a while back, like business-wise and art-wise. Have I seen the new revised ending of My Hero Academia? I saw the extra sort of, what do you call it? epilogue, but I didn't see a revision. No. What else has been out lately? I'm trying to think. I've been reading a little more of the manga this summer. Hikaru died. It's pretty cool. It's creepy. It's just got a vibe I like. It's got a style I like. Making my way through like reference stuff, but I don't always want to talk about what my episodes coming up are. But yeah, I got some more of that. Reading some stuff for reference and for writing. There's a lot of fine detail I'm realizing that I'd be doing for this smaller deck. And then I've got a really big one here to add to the piece. Sort of a profile of his face. No, I don't know Alien Stronghold. I've done a review of it on this channel. If you look at the Trash Movie Bonanza playlist, I think it was like maybe the second or third one that Jim and I reviewed. So I've definitely reviewed it on this channel, and I strongly recommend checking it out. I could be wrong, but it doesn't feel like there aren't many alternatives to what Funko Pop does. I don't like the designs, but would love to collect IP. So you're saying somebody that just makes an action figure of all sorts of intellectual property? Yeah, I guess there's not anybody else that necessarily does that. If you had to receive funds to publish a comic book and you had to write the story for it, would you create it? It could either be your own thing, or you could adapt any existing intellectual property that already exists. Like, what would you most want to do? I've got a ton of my own stories I'd enjoy telling if I just had unlimited resources. But maybe there's something that already exists that you really love that you'd want to tell, and I'd be curious to hear that too. Your stuff, respect. I would hire 4 artists to do 4-issue auto-bio miniseries. I like that. Hey, hire me. I'll tell my my superhero year story. I just need a lot of money to be able to pay bills while I do it. Your own thing for sure, but adapting, it would be the mariachi character from the Robert Rodriguez movies. Yeah, I could see more stuff with that character. I do that. I do write my own stories, so can't imagine writing established character properties by and large. Totally respect that. I know you've got some good stories to tell. You've got some good stories to tell. Oh man, I would totally get on board with another Crank. I'm not sure what exactly would fuel him a third time. You know, he went through adrenaline and electricity. Like, what else is like a type of fuel or substance that you have to keep sort of injecting or processing into your body? I don't know. That it's not an easy thing for me to think of, like one more thing that, like, you know, an illicit substance or just some sort of weird bad thing for your body that you have to keep charging up. Street Wolves, yes. You have a Street Wolves thing bouncing around in your head for 2 years, but I don't know how to focus in on it. I'm crap at drawing cars. Well, first of all, Mike, you're a fantastic artist. And I don't think it's unfair if you have trouble with a real physical thing to use reference for that. You know, there are programs you could use to model a specific car or cars so that you could like just have that part referenced and work on, like, you know, the stuff that you are good at, like characters and stuff. That I would be curious to see what it is. How about a Bill Sienkiewicz adaptation of Jaws? I would pay $50,000 for that. Well, he'll take that. I didn't really draw like a full car. I drew a scene from like a rear view mirror, and so there is a car in the background, and I used because I love Initial D, I drew a Trueno 86. You were working on a historical fiction comic about Boudica. I was mainly painting it, but I think I would do work on the story too. If established IP, Wonder Woman. Respect. Crank 3, but he's powered by white monster energy. Yeah, I guess you could do something like caffeine. Then you're just telling the Chris story. My story. My God, he's had more caffeine than any man alive. It's what I need to keep going. I'm going the distance. Oh, that's just a horror movie. Those steak nuggets do not look appetizing to me. I'd make Predator Badlands Badderlands. Deck has to survive watching Predator 2018. Oh, The Predator by Shane Black. Oof, that's cruelty. Boy, was that bad. And I don't think that there's anything else Shane Black has done that I've outright disliked. But The Predator and Predator Alien versus Predator Requiem are tied for my bottom of the series. I don't know which is worse. I really don't. Because I think that the Shane Black one is more disappointing anyway, you know? Sorry I get quieter when I draw. Just easy to lose myself in imagination as soon as I start doodling. Makes sense. It's bad on so many ways. It's stunning how bad it is. Yeah, basically it did. It tried to imply that autism was like an ability. Just so many bad decisions. I don't. Who's to say what would happen if any of us were in charge? But just Shane Black has done other really good stuff, and he'd even worked on the original Predator. You know, he'd done some of the script doctoring on that as well as acting in it. Just weird that he misread the material that badly. Right. Yeah, the behind the scenes story is probably very good for that. Let's see, what else? Yeah, obviously I'm getting kind of quiet because I'm just having fun drawing, and that probably makes me not the best host, so we'll probably wrap it up soon. Plus, I always have stuff to do, so like I said, I have recorded the new comic tropes. Means that it's time to edit. Excuse me. Gotta have dinner. What else do I have to do? Gotta figure out what I'm gonna do for my special bonus episode for my patrons for this month. I've got a couple options. I need like 1 to 2 more options so that they can decide which they want me to do. I like it to be their decisions, so that I'm hopefully giving them some value for their support. Hopefully. What else? Funny, Chris, I'm about to record my Patreon episodes after you're done. Very cool. Oh, Dave has an interview with Mark Silvestri up on his channel, by the way, folks. That's pretty exciting. So that means you've done 3 of the original 7 image founders, right? Because you've done Todd, you've done Eric, and now you've done Mark. I'm pretty sure you could, without too much trouble, get Jim Valentino, and I'm sure you could get Whilce Portacio. So that gets you up to 5. Yeah, Liefeld and Jim Lee will be the 2 toughest to get. But I bet you could do it. I think you could get all of them. I think that would be really cool. I don't think that there is a channel that's interviewed all of the image founders. Unless you count sort of like the documentary that the Sci-Fi Channel made or whatever. But for a comic book YouTuber, I think that like I think that would be a really cool thing to have achieved, to get all of them. I feel like it's doable. But congrats on Silvestri. Oh, totally agree. Yep. LCD and Albert are the robots in that series. I loved it. I loved it. I would enjoy interviewing Rob Liefeld. I doubt he'd go for it because I've done some episodes that are, critical of him, but I don't dislike him as a person or anything like that. And there was an era where I was very excited to read his comics when I was younger. So, I appreciate that. And I would really enjoy talking to him and trying to understand his workflow and stuff like that. But I don't expect that to happen. He doesn't. The trick is that he doesn't need to do interviews. He's got his own outlets and he's got his fierce supporters, and he's really good at marketing and getting the hype up without necessarily having to do an interview. That's right. That's right. Tony's great. It's been cool seeing Tony do some more comic stuff. Just like 2 weeks ago, he did a story in the EC Comics Outlaw Showdown book. He also did the cover, of course, but it was very cool to see him do an internal story. I think he's a fantastic storyteller, one of my favorites. I'm biased, but I think he's incredible. God, he's done so many things, but it's really cool seeing him do the covers on things like Skinbreaker right now, Battle Beast. I'm glad to see him doing stuff with Kirkman. He's doing a new cover for some of their editions that are getting re-released, and I don't know. There's a part of me deep down that thinks that that someday we'll get another new story from them together. It might just be a short story, a backup or something, but I feel like someday we're going to get to see Kirkman and Moore together again. I really do. I think he's allowed to pursue his other artistic interests. He does a lot of painting. He's interested in tattoos and tattoo culture. And I think he just enjoys doing his own thing. He lives in a more rural area. His money goes further. He gets residuals on a lot of the Walking Dead stuff. But keep in mind, he also gets residuals for things like Agent Venom and Punisher and Ghost Rider and Exterminators. So, he does the occasional cover, and covers pay well. He's doing a lot of covers right now. So, he's done album covers. He directed a music video for Tyler, who's the sort of country star, Tyler Childress? Is that his name? Let me look it up. Tyler Childers. Tony directed an animated music video for him called Country Squire. It's really cool. Look that up on YouTube when you get a chance. Anyway, I think I'll wrap it up now. Valentino must have a million good stories. Because he's been in the business a long time. He knows the underground indie comics stuff before he ever went mainstream. He worked at Marvel during like one of their periods where they had just so much talent. He helped found Image Comics. He was the president and the guy that approved series for a long time. Valentino must have a million good stories. So, yeah, I think I'll wrap it up here. I was having fun with this, but I'll continue it next week because I've got a pretty good layout and I want to take my time. And if I'm going to do it on this one, I think I'll take my time and do a good job. But there were some great comics out this week. My big regret, I'll say this before I leave. I really wish I had been able to get the latest issue of Ice Cream Man. If you folks don't know, it was released as a deck of cards. It's $10. It's called the Mortal Coil Shuffle set, and it's also the latest issue of the comic, and it's told through a deck of cards, playing cards, not like a traditional 52 deck of cards. I'm saying just all sorts of cards that look kind of like, sometimes like they're a Magic the Gathering card or something along those. And I really, really wanted to see it. I mean, that's experimental. That's such a cool way to try to tell a story. I don't know. I really want to get a copy. Like I said, unfortunately, my store didn't have a copy for me. I've got it on back order, so I really hope I get it. As for my pick of the week out of the comics that I got, a lot of fun stuff, first of all. Really fun Dan Mora art. Great issue of G.I. Joe that does some clever stuff. Solid finale to Big Rig. I do recommend Orphan and the Five Beasts and Void Rivals, but it's really not too hard to choose for my pick of the week. This issue of The Savage Sword of Conan, and it's primarily for the incredible story that Liam Sharp created. You can tell it's a labor of love. It's a big Conan story. It's got a weird supernatural idea behind it, and he's really knocked it out of the park and taken his art to another level with this. And it's because you can see that he's really excited and passionate about it. Strong recommend, easy recommend. Hope that you guys can find yourselves a copy, because it really is something special. It's issue 11, Savage Sword of Conan magazine, easily my pick of the week. So that is everything for me. I think I will take off here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you again to Dynamite for sponsoring this episode. Keep your eyes peeled. Pretty soon we will get order codes for the Gargoyles Darkwing Duck crossover by the folks that worked on the cartoon. Greg Wiseman, Tad Stones, incredible art by Ciro. Really grateful for a sponsorship. And yeah, take care. Oh, and remember, I do pop up for a little bit in West Coast Avengers current episode where we went to the Short Run Comics Festival. So thanks, everybody. Double salute for you. Keep reading comics. Bye.